Hello friends, this is PP and welcome to Law for All. In this video, we're going to be learning about how to draft an affidavit. Essentially, we're going to be learning about what are the basics of an affidavit and how one should be drafting an affidavit. Now, before I get into the video, I would like to mention that if you are a person who is interested in learning about various topics under the Indian law, or if you're a budding lawyer who wants to get the rudiments of the Indian law straight, then in that case I suggest that you do check out the links that I've left in the description section below, because I believe that it might be of some help to you. So now, proceeding with the video, an affidavit essentially is a statement on oath. Now what that means is that a statement on oath essentially can either be oral or can be reduced down to writing. Now if a person makes a statement on oath, that is, if a person says that in the name of God I truthfully and correctly speak so and so, then in that case that can be witnessed by a specific person. What I mean to say is, if such a statement on oath is made in the court, the same gets recorded. Whereas if it is made before another authority, or if such statement is to be made before a specific authority for the purpose of availing a specific service, then in such a case oral statements are not sort of trustworthy, because they can always be changed. Therefore, an affidavit is a means of reducing a statement on oath down to writing, which can always be maintained for record. So that is essentially what an affidavit is. Affidavit essentially is a statement on oath. Now, an affidavit, there are two kinds of affidavits. One is an affidavit which can be filed in the court. That is an affidavit that is affixed or annexed along with a plaint or a written statement or an application or what have you. And the other affidavit is an affidavit that is made on a stamp paper, which is to be produced before a quasi-judicial authority or before a governmental authority, as the case may be. So therefore, now the affidavit that is to be produced in the court does not require the payment of any stamp duty. The affidavit which is to be filed in the court, like suppose the affidavit in evidence, can be drafted on a ledger paper or a white paper and can be sworn before an oath administering commissioner. Whereas an affidavit which is to be given to a governmental authority is required to be made compulsorily on a stamp paper, because the government wants to collect revenue. And in the case of a civil suit, when you're filing an affidavit, the reason why no stamp duty is required to be paid is because the plaintiff or the defendant, as the case may be, has already paid stamp duty. That is, when a plaint is filed, when the plaintiff prefers a plaint, he's already paying a stamp duty on that plaint. So therefore, when you're filing subsequent affidavits, you're not required to pay stamp duty. So that is one aspect that you have to consider. Now, an affidavit that is to be filed before an authority, or any affidavit for that matter, as I've already previously pointed out, that it has to be sworn before an oath administering commissioner. That is, it will have to be either a notary, or it can also be an executive magistrate or the district magistrate or even the district judge for that matter, because some specific authorities have been given power to administer oath and execute affidavits. So a person can always approach such an authority and get an affidavit executed, but more often than not it is a little difficult to swear an affidavit before a governmental authority. So it's always easier practice to swear an affidavit before a notary. So notary is also given an explicit power to record affidavits, and notary acts as an oath commissioner. Now, an affidavit does not require witnesses, as opposed to other documents. That is, like say for example, an agreement for leave and license, or any agreement for that matter under the contract law. The law requires that such an agreement has to be compulsorily attested by two competent witnesses. Whereas an affidavit is not bound by such strictures. An affidavit does not require witnesses. All that an affidavit requires is that it has to be compulsorily sworn before an oath administering authority. If an affidavit is plainly drafted on a stamp paper and is signed by the party, that affidavit will have no meaning, and that affidavit will absolutely be useless in the eyes of law. The affidavit has to be, as I've pointed out previously, has to be sworn before an oath commissioner. That is one of the prerequisites, an absolute prerequisite of an affidavit. Now, affidavits are used for various purposes. That is, if in case one wishes to avail electricity connection, water connection, or if one wishes to avail any sort of beneficial service scheme which is floated by the government, then in such case affidavits are always sought for. so that there is a record maintained as regards the facts that you're stating before the authority, so that in the event an affidavit is found to be false, then the government can always take action. That is, the government can always revoke the services that have been given to you, or otherwise take any penal action as well, because an affidavit, as I've pointed out, is a statement on oath, and so therefore swearing a false statement on oath is an offense. So if in the event you swear a false statement on oath, then you can be prosecuted under various sections under the IPC as well as the CRPC, which is in force in India. So now I have already prepared some demo affidavits as always, which I shall be showing to you. So this is the first affidavit here. Now this is essentially the format of an affidavit. If you wish to read the contents of that affidavit, then you can pause the video and read it, and then you can continue along after you've read the contents. For the purpose of brevity, I shall not read the exact all the contents of the affidavit, but I'll just brush through them. Now in the affidavit, what is important is the fact that you have to always prefix every statement made in the affidavit by the phrase I say. You always have to say I say everywhere, because through that system it can be made for sure, it can be held for certain that the person who is making the statement or swearing the affidavit is specifically making that statement, because otherwise the other system could be that so and so and so. I mean, I don't know whether if I'm able to communicate properly or not, but like for example, if a paragraph starts with the statement saying that in the event so and so is found to be false, then so and so action may be taken. Now this statement does not have the phrase I say in it, so therefore the person can always if in the event that statement is found to be false, then the person can always say that I personally did not make that statement, it was just a part of the entire format, so therefore I signed it. So of course that will not be a strong defense, but that can also be a defense. So therefore it is always therefore in an affidavit it is always required that the prefix I say is made before put before every statement that is made in an affidavit. Now this system of saying I say has been of course inherited by us from the British. This is the same format in which affidavits are filed even before various courts following the common law, various countries following the common law. So therefore this I say is a prefix that has to be put before every statement when you're drafting an affidavit. Now again, in the affidavit, what you have to consider or take care is that in the affidavit you have to keep the statements as simple as possible. There is no problem if you keep on making paragraphs. I mean, other than the fact that the affidavit will be a little elongated, but the entire object behind drafting a document always should be that the person reading the document should be able to comprehend it correctly, that there should not be any confusion. So therefore my suggestion always would be to break the affidavit into as many paragraphs as possible. If in the event that a specific paragraph is cannot be framed simply in a simple language or a fashion, then in that case it should always be a good practice to break the affidavit into multiple paragraphs and make simple statements so that it can be understood very well by the third party. Now also another fact that I forgot to mention here is the first part of the affidavit, that is the part wherein the name of the person is stated. Now in the affidavit it is always good practice to state the name of the person, to state the name of the father or the husband of the person as the case may be, the age of the person, the marital status, the employment status, and the residential address of the person. Now all of this is stated so for the purpose of better identification of the person who is swearing the affidavit, because if an affidavit is sworn and tomorrow if the person himself or herself cannot specifically be identified, then the entire object behind swearing the affidavit is nullified, because then that person can always claim to be not the person who has signed the document. So therefore when the name of the person has to be explained clearly and specifically in the entire document, in the entire affidavit, the name as well as the father's name and all the other details have to be specifically mentioned. And there is also another thing that you can do is that you can also add the mobile number or an Aadhaar card number or a PAN card number as the case may be, for even better identification. So that is something that you can do. Now in this affidavit, this affidavit has been sworn by the person swearing the affidavit for the purpose of transferring I believe the electricity connection in his name in respect of a flat that is purchased by virtue of a deed of sale from its previous owners. So this affidavit is to be sworn and is to be produced before the electricity department for availing the transfer of electricity connection. So this affidavit also at paragraph 4 says that I say that this affidavit is sworn by me in order to change the name of the consumer of the electricity connection having consumer number so and so pertaining to the said flat from so and so name to my name. So therefore this is for that purpose. And subsequently in paragraph 5 it has also been stated that I say that in case of any dispute regarding the ownership of the above referred premises or is found, then the assistant engineer is always free to change or revert back the name on the electricity connection to the name of the original owner. So therefore that has also been included. So that sort of acts as an indemnity. That is, it sort of it is a combination of an affidavit as well as an indemnity bond. That is, it has that a force majeure clause. That is, if in the event it is found to be false, then so and so can be taken. So this is also a system of drafting an affidavit. Now the next forma is for loss of subscription voucher issued by HP Gas Distribution Services. This is also an affidavit which is again to be given to the HP gas distributors if in the event you lose the subscription voucher that is given to you along with the gas cylinder LPG connection. So again this is also a style of affidavit, but what is pertinent to point out here is that I directly used the format that is used by HP gas services itself. This is one of the formats that was given to me, and I was asked to type it exactly and then execute it. So therefore the flaw that I find in this affidavit, although it might not be a material flaw, but as I pointed out before, if you can notice that the phrase I say is not prefixed before all the paragraphs. So this can lead to a little bit of ambiguity, at least in my respectful consideration. Although there is, as I've pointed out, although there is no mandate that you have to state I say before everything, but as you can see, if I say is not prefixed, then it might lead to some ambiguity. So this is an example of an affidavit that I also wanted to show you guys. And also another important thing in this affidavit is that you can see that there is a verification along with the affidavit. So the affidavit is on top and another verification of the affidavit is also done. So this is also a system that is followed. The person signing the affidavit will have to sign at both places, that is on the top here, as well as on the bottom part where the phrase deponent is written. And then accordingly, of course, the document will have to be notarized as an affidavit and not verification. So this is also a system that is followed. Now the final affidavit the forma of the affidavit that I wish to show you is for the purpose of availing a separate ration card. Now this forma is again used by the civil supplies department here in Goa, and this format is absolutely correct. This format has the prefix I say everywhere, so it looks systematic and decent, and has been drafted correctly. Now only the last part that I wish to point out in affidavit is always the last paragraph should be that I say that whatever stated was true to my knowledge, nothing is false and nothing is concealed. That is another system that is also followed, and that excerpt in an affidavit is very important, that at the end you have to always state that whatever you're saying on oath is true to the best of your knowledge. It is not required that it has to be absolutely true, but it is required that it has to be true to the best of your own personal knowledge. So if something is found to be false subsequently, then you can always show that it was true to the best of your knowledge, and that it was not true in reality, because you can never ensure that whatever you're saying is always absolutely correct. You can only say whatever is true to the best of your knowledge, and you cannot predict what is actually correct sometimes. So that is why that statement is always added in affidavit. And the last part is solemnly affirmed at so and so place on this day. That is, the place and the date will have to be mentioned, and the name of the person will have to be stated at the end, and the person will have to sign. So this is essentially a system of drafting an affidavit, and it has to be drafted again on a stamp paper if it is to be placed before, if it is to be submitted to a governmental authority, or on ledger paper or white paper as the case may be, if it is to be filed before the court or any quasi judicial authority. So this is how an affidavit is drafted. I hope this video has helped you, and if you like this video, kindly do me a big favor and give this video a thumbs up. Kindly share this video with your friends who might be interested in this topic, and subscribe to this channel for more such awesome content. Until next time, this is PP saying bye.